stand by me and pray with me. I can't do this on my own. Walk with me, talk with me. Don't you leave me all alone. Stand by me and stay with me. that I sing a song of hope. Said I've been down and I've been out, and I've seen things no one should see. But I knew one day, come what may, that I'll sing a song of hope. Walk with me, talk with me, Don't you leave me all alone. Stand by me, stay with me. I can't live this on my own.
Your times of joy had been too brief. The threat of death posed by weapons made you leave your own possessions. But do not sink, you need to float. In times of need, I'll be your boat. Let's stand together, you and me. Address the needs of refugees.
Walk with me, talk with me. Don't you leave me all alone.
African Union is so silent. You're watching all the beatings and the killings of the southern Cameroonians. It's been a long, long time. We have been marginalized. American government, why can't you stop these killings? We see the French government promoting the genocide. They specialize in killing our people. So pretty, where are you? From Lebialem to Mezab, you're killing our people. Amazonian people, stand up for your freedom. Amazonian people, this is our moment. Amazonian people, we need to stand up for our freedom. No more killings, our people are dying. No more torture, our children are dying. Amazonian people, this is our moment. Amazonian people, we need to stand up for our freedom. Together we can build a better nation. Amazonia. Together we can build a better nation, free from killings. Together we can build a better nation. Amazonia. Together we can build a better nation, free from corruption. Liberate our president, Sitiko Ayom Dabi. Liberate all the prisoners and convicts.
Carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So Africa must be ruled by Africans.
nation. What a time. Since the time of sun and sun. Since the time of moon and stars. Since the time of air and sea. Since the time of men and things. We must run from faith to Cairo. And then look through our purpose land. Purpose land. Oh! Okay now I want to talk to my people. Ira Daniela, oh, I will know. Yeah, Ira Daniela, oh, I will know. Happy little over Daniela. Now we are the crossroads. On the Femo, the Villa. Happy little over Daniela. On the Femo, the Villa. Oh, Palimu, I got a baba. Yeah, oh, Palimu, just to Yaraka. Yeah, Palimu, Zizanya, the Tongue. Oh, me, oh, the man of them not buggy say. Oh, Palimu, the man of them not buggy so. All right. Done it all. I'm not famous, the better. Oh, Palimu, I got a baba. Yeah, oh, Palimu, just to Yaraka. Yeah, Palimu, Zizanya, the Tongue. Oh, me, oh, me, oh, the man of them not buggy say. Oh, Palimu, the man of them not buggy so. All right.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another broadcast live coming to you from ABC Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, all the way here from the great state of Texas, precisely from Houston. I want to welcome all of you across the globe, from Asia to Europe, to sub-Saharan Africa, or all of Africa, the continental USA plus Canada, and of course, South America. It's always a privilege to come to you with updates on our revolution, and today I have a very, very exciting presentation to bring to you. As usual, I would like you to please go ahead and quickly hit your share button and let us populate this platform before I bring you the presentation today. I have some very, very, very exciting information that I have to bring to you today. So please, you go ahead and hit your platform. Let those who know that, let those who are not here know I am here at the moment. I would love to especially say a big thank you on behalf of this interim government to Ground Zero for the wonderful observance of lockdown that they did yesterday in all of Ground Zero. We thank you. This is about all of us. It is not just about you. It is not just about the diaspora. It is not about the interim government at all. It is about all of us. All of us. It is our destiny, the destiny of our children that we are fighting for today. And so each time we come out and we announce a lockdown and all Ground Zero observes it as you did yesterday, we truly appreciate it. The only way the international community knows that we indeed have a handle upon our territory and upon our people is when you listen to us and observe these ghost towns and these lockdowns. And La République du Cameroon is receiving the message. They may want us to believe, no, they're not receiving it, they're not listening to it, they're not seeing it. But I can assure you that they are indeed listening and receiving the message. La République du Cameroon understands they cannot, as usual, come to our territory and do business without any challenge. La République du Cameroon understands that we are beginning to determine the course of affairs in our own territory. They cannot just step into our territory and organize event without consulting us. We rule our territory. We control our territory. We may not have the territorial boundaries under physical control, but we control the politics. We control the economy. We control social life also. So please, again, a big thank you for respecting and for observing lockdown and sending that message to the international community and to French Cameroon that elections organized by them will never again take place in our territory. That was wonderful. And those who went out trying to partake in that election rerun, people like Joseph Mbandam, have the testimony of what happened to them over there. And so we have no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, French Cameroon will still go out and announce the result of that election that never was. And do you realize, did you discover this? On the eve of the election, that is Friday, French Cameroon-sponsored newspapers went out with the headlines. The government has cancelled the election because of the coronavirus pandemic. But come to find out, it was just a trick. It was a mere trick. The elections went on as planned. The newspapers' headlines that the government had postponed the election, it was a ploy to maybe thinking we will cancel lockdown and give them a free ride to their election centers. But thank God we did not. We refused, ladies and gentlemen. We refused to cancel the lockdown. And you went out and told them you were not part of that arrangement. You refused to go out. You stayed home. The churches refused to open their doors. At least the overwhelming majority of churches on the ground refused to open their doors. And the day was locked down, completely locked down. I saw photographs coming from Kumba. I saw some coming from Bamenda. And it was quite encouraging, very, very wonderful. Again, thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a few hundred to go before I come to you with the presentation proper. We have about almost 500 people here. Please, as you join, go ahead, hit that share button. And while you do so, let me see who is joining. For a while now, I haven't mentioned your names here. Milichi, I see you here. Ethan Hunt, thank you for joining, sir. Rest in power. No pity. No pity is alive. Ladies and gentlemen, take it from me. Okay? No pity, General No Pity is not dead. He is alive. Fidelia Amber, I see you. So Guardian Post is a disgrace of a newspaper. Thank you for that. All right. Pierre Brian Nzale, I see you, sir. Jean Mambo, my body, right over there In the state of Chicago, I see you, sir. Amber Landers, Amber Descendants is a favorite on this platform. Please, I like the way the numbers are rising. Keep on hitting your share button if you are just joining. If you are just joining, go on, keep on hitting your share button. Guzan Cryer, I say, no, he is dead. No, he is not dead. General No PT is alive. I will come to you with a little bit of more, information about that. Grace Azano, I see you. I see in the rush. Destiny, New Country, JC McLee, Billy Bones, Freedom is coming tomorrow, Ambazonia. I also see Luanga Njoya. Ngoketunja country has confirmed the death. Now, listen to me. No, this is official IG media, right? Ngoketunja is all a part of the IG, and you can understand, I don't come here and say things without talking to Ngoketunja. So hold your peace and just hit your share button, okay? All right. Becky Awa, I see you, ma'am. One of those who is always here also. Please keep on hitting your share button while I bring you a little more news. Ladies and gentlemen, again, there is an audio clip out there. I think I have that audio here. Let me see, I can play that out to you. Talking about the death of General No PT. I have that audio here and I love you to listen to it. Now listen to this audio here. Oh, where is the volume? Okay, give me a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get this volume up here. All right.
Today is March 23, 2020. Fellow Amazonians, good afternoon. I come to you today with a heavy heart. I come to you today, fellow Amazonians, with tears in my eyes. On behalf of the Ngokutunja Self-Defense Council, I want to tell the general public and Amazonians that General No PT of Bambalang Marine Brigade of Ngokutunja is dead. He died yesterday, March 22, 2020. General No PT was summarily stabbed to death by some unidentified gunmen. General No PT, we love you and we will miss you.
All right.
Rest in perfect peace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you will certainly listen to this clip or get this clip talking or announcing the death of General No PT out there in the social media. And yes, that audio is coming from Ngoketunjia County spokesperson. But I wish to come to you at this moment to officially retract that piece of announcement. Take it from me that General No PT is not dead as announced. He is alive. We are aware that his parents were picked up by French Cameroon soldiers 2 days ago, and they are being held incommunicado. Where they are being held, we have no idea. But as far as General No PT himself is concerned, I can assure you that the photos, the images that you find on social media, they are not those of General No PT. There has been communication with him as of today before coming to you with this broadcast. So please, we would want you to ignore when you find that piece of announcement, that audio on the social media. Ignore it and educate others to ignore it. And if possible, if it comes to you, please do not pass it along, as many are in the habit of doing. General No Pity is not dead. General No Pity. General No Pity is alive. General No Pity is alive. Ladies and gentlemen, he is not dead. He is alive. So take it from here. Now, one more thing that I like to talk about before I take you into the presentation proper. For those of you on ground zero, I believe you would have waked up this morning, this Monday morning, seeing headlines like this one. Headlines like this one in newspapers, French Cameroon-sponsored newspapers like this one. It says, FBI orders urge to implement court decision against U.S.-based activists. Another one says, U.S. officials in court over failure to arrest ringleaders of Ambazonia, over failure to arrest ringleaders of Ambazonia, and you will find my name among the list of those the U.S. officials are refusing to arrest. And you find it also in this other paper. The paper says, as U.S. government agencies are dragged to court, the news tightens around Ambazonia kingpins in U.S. It's such a terrible headline for a newspaper. The news tightens around Ambazonia kingpin. What does it mean by kingpin? It doesn't make sense. The sentence doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound like English. So, for those of you on ground zero, you will definitely wake up this morning seeing or reading headlines like this one in the newspapers. Please, we want you not to be worried. These lawsuits being referred to here, and it is unfortunate that we have a media in Ambazonia to whom you can give them anything, and they will write any trash, they will publish any trash and make them cover stories in their own newspapers. How can a newspaper publish a cover story like this one? The news tightens around Ambazonia kingpins in the USA. What does that even mean? Well, but I understand where they are coming from. They are giving some chicken change to put our headlines such as this. Ladies and gentlemen, we want you, especially on ground zero, not to be at all worried about what you read in those paid publications. This law firm, the so-called Insalai law firm, they have tried getting some of us in prison in the USA to no avail. They have taken yours truly in particular to court, I think, on 3 occasions, and on all of the occasions, they failed to win a single suit. Now, after failing to get me arrested or locked up, or failing to get Tapan Ivo locked up, failing to get Dr. Sako locked up, Bo Hebe locked up, Akwanga locked up, they are now suing the Department of the Treasury in the U.S., suing the Department of State in the U.S., suing the Department of Homeland Security in the U.S. If they cannot as much as win a single case against individuals, they think they're going to win a case against a U.S. State Department or Homeland Security or the FBI. I guess Cameroon just have enough money to spread around to fools like Insalai. What is the other name? I don't remember. All right. So, but I wanted to talk about this so that those of you on ground zero reading headlines like this one should not be worried at all. What they are trying to do is tell you The revolution is about to crumble because the leaders are about to be picked up. The leaders are about to be sent to jail. So the revolution is almost over. Surrender. Surrender. That is what they are trying to do. But we want you to hold your peace. Even if Chris Anu and others were put in jail, there will still be leadership that propels the Ambazonian revolution, because this is not about individuals, and this is why the government as an institution is very, very important. Leaders go and others come. If they knew that after picking up Sisiko and Tasang Wilfred, we will still be here pursuing them and prosecuting this war, I bet they probably wouldn't have done so. But let me assure them by any means, by any chance, they succeed to get any one of us behind bars, this revolution will certainly still continue. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what else. Now, let me also announce this. We are also very much aware, besides the fact that General Nopiti is not dead, he is alive. We have also gotten information that 1,300 troops are being prepared down for Libialem from Boya. 1,300 troops are being sent down to Libialem to track down the field marshal. We do not know for how long La Republic will keep sending their soldiers to go and die in Libialem. It is a no-go area. They know just how many of their soldiers are already dead in that territory, but they keep on sending more and more, and they do not even arrive there. They all die on the road. And they are again sending out 1,300 others. Good luck to you all. Fellow Ambazonians, thank you for joining the broadcast. At this moment, I will not hold you any longer. I will bring you this very, very important presentation. I will bring you this very, very important presentation. But I urge you, please go ahead and continue to hit your share button. Go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, continue to hit your share button. I hope that this presentation illuminates you and lay down some of the insinuations that we hear out there about your interim government. Fellow Ambazonians, once more, good evening to you all. Is it possible that the interim government was a wrong idea? This is the subject of the presentation I bring to you today. Another way of putting the question is, was it a bad idea to have formed a government for Ambazonia at the beginning of the struggle? Or better still, were those who conceived the idea of a government for the struggle fundamentally wrong? What would you say is the obvious hindrance or obstacle to perceived unity for the struggle? Is it the government or the attitude of individuals within and without the government? And if you should be thinking, as some are in the habit of doing, that the main problem resulting from the creation of a government is the current factionalism. The current factionalism, ladies and gentlemen, power mongering and the strong man syndrome. Do you think there was a better alternative that perhaps should have brought in everyone and every group under one tent in the place of a government? This discourse has become a necessity today, because all of a sudden questions and opinion are emerging from some quarters, questioning the wisdom behind the formation of the interim government in the first place. Honorable Joseph Weber, for instance, raised the question at an event in London when lobbied to join a movement that was crusading to topple or replace the current leadership of the interim government. Before disappointing them by turning down their request, Weber told them that from the onset, from the very beginning, he advised against the idea of forming a government. What his misgivings were or still are today against the government, he chose not to bear them out. Recently, this group with leadership traits from South Africa came up with this idea of town hall meetings. The meetings' goals are focused on educating and sensitizing Ambazonians on their newly found attendant disadvantages of a government. They ultimately hope that they can reverse the wheels, scrap the government, and resort to what they have long envisaged as a revolutionary council. A revolutionary council. The town hall meetings take place on a regular monthly basis under the patronage of a certain obscure Southern Cameroon's international coalition. Leadership that addresses the issues has since pledged loyalty and affiliation to the Naira 9 group in Kondenge. Why they condemn the idea of a government vehemently. At these town hall meetings, the group masquerades itself and, like in their former APNC, pretend to be a collaborative formation, whereas it is actually an offshoot from that botched APNC. They preach that the revolution is going down the drain and that something in a collaborative character has to surface, and quickly so, to save the revolution. They are on record as stating in several of their town hall meetings that the idea of the interim government was a bad one. Something has to be hastily done before the government crumbles the revolution, they say. In the place of a government, they hope that a revolutionary council should be the best idea and the best thing that reinvents energy into the revolution at this moment. They are telling those who care to listen to them that forming a government created a stumbling block for the revolution, that no international body or country will ever listen or talk to us because in their minds we usurped and misplaced authority by referring to us as a government. Even more astounding is the fact that the Naira abductees in Kondenge, the main architect behind the formation of the interim government, with the exception of Tasang Wilfred, are also on board, condemning the idea of a government. Sisiko has recently suggested that the idea of a government may have been a bad one. They are now suggesting that maybe the whole idea of a government should be cancelled, totally scrapped, and we get back to the drawing board and come up with something new, something they call a revolutionary council. The inherent problem here, ladies and gentlemen, like before, is that all of these people believe that anything that must work must have only them as the drivers on the steering, even if the idea turns out to be unworkable. The process is It is not about, the process is about them, not about the end product. And it is only good if they pilot the train. Or how else do you explain that when they created the government, it was such a historic event and idea, but the moment they lost control, the whole idea became a regrettable adventure. My goal here today, ladies and gentlemen, is to present you with a very, very fair and balanced diagnostics of the issues and facts surrounding this government, so that true lovers of this revolution, of this struggle, can immediately spare themselves the distraction and focus on prosecuting French Cameroon, our common enemy. I have referred to 3 groups in the preceding paragraphs. Permit me now to say that none, and I mean zero of them, have been consistent or honest to themselves and to the Ambazonian people. In this struggle, Ambazonians keep on looking for men and women, I mean leaders with honesty, and above all, with consistency, leaders with consistency. No doubt, many leaders and activists have been rejected and kicked out of the struggle when they sold out and will no longer speak and act consistently. There are leaders with whom we took to the streets chanting the same slogans and carrying the same banners and flag only months ago. But look at them today, or listen to them today. You wonder what has come over them when you listen to them. At a point in time, we had leaders and activists who said, give us independence, give us Ambazonia or we die. But the same are today subtly organizing town hall meetings and preaching another gospel, another message. The message of a possible federation with French Cameroon. They no longer go with the appellation Ambazonia, but you hear the word Southern Cameroons all the time coming out from their lips. Only a week ago, our former president, Sisiko Ayoktabe, was on record stating that his vice president XXX was supposed to be Honorable Joseph Weber. His language was kind of indecisive and inconclusive though. When he says Weber was supposed to be, it is not very clear whether he means Weber actually was or was in the process of being. But what helps our understanding here are quotations allegedly from him, from Sisiko, stating that Weber was actually on a salary of $3,000 as VP XXX. If this was indeed the case, how honest then and truthful was Weber when he said he advised against a government that later was paying him $3,000? Is it possible that the Honorable only saw the need to speak out against the structure or against the government when the new leadership couldn't continue his salary? Is that possible? The problem here is that nobody has a categorical answer to this rather rhetorical question, not until the Honorable himself thinks it necessary to address the issue. But what is even more intriguing, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that the town hall meetings group and their leaders behind bars are the ones campaigning, crusading, that the Ambazonians scrap the interim government that was essentially their own formation. The very people who conceived and birthed the idea and the structure of the interim government, of this government, after falling out of control and doing everything to take it back to no avail, they now want you to believe that the government, the interim government, their creation was a bad idea. Does this make any sense at all? Does anyone take them seriously? The interim government was conceived in South Africa and birthed in Zaria, Nigeria. The interim government was not a mistake. I will say it again, it was not a bad idea, and it will never be. The IG came about as a child of necessity. I mean the direct result of the declaration of the restoration of the state of Ambazonia on October 1st, 2017. On that day, Sisiko Ayoktabe formally read the proclamation for which we all fight and die for today, in which he restored the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroons. He named it the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, and he gave it a flag and an anthem too, a national anthem. Its territorial demarcation had already been marked out from colonial days. All it needed was a government over it to make the initiation complete. It was then the debate as to whether, it was not the debate as to whether or not to create a government. In Zaria, Nigeria, where they birthed the government, the question was rather whether a government should be formed. It was not whether a government should be formed. The question was how, under what modalities it should be formed. If there is anything to regret about the exercise, it should never be the idea of the government itself. It should be the modalities, the guidelines under which that government was created. The same characters, the same leaders, ladies and gentlemen, who now want us to believe the idea of a government was a bad one, were the same people who excluded other invited Ambazonians from the forum that created the government. They selfishly held it for all themselves behind bars, behind closed doors. In fact, the meetings didn't take off, not until the second day, just so they could maneuver and exclude those they didn't want in the meetings. They excluded some people, even at the barrel of the gun, from sitting in that forum. I supported the idea of a government and strongly advocated for it. When advocated for it, I was invited, and I flew all the way from the United States, but was not allowed to sit in that forum, in that hall, to discuss the formation of this government. It was equally same for others who flew in equally from the United States and from Europe. Forming the government was supposed to be the rallying point, that uniting moment among different groups that showed up at the conclave. But sorry to say, most of those groups were not given seats in the conclave. They paid their flights and paid their own hotels and flew into Nigeria, but never had to enter the hall. But this isn't the problem right now. In fact, it shouldn't be an excuse for the shame that some of those groups have since brought to bear on this revolution. They are equally as devilish as the people who formed the government the way they did, but now think it was wrong just because they are not in charge. So how could the idea of a government be wrong after you declared a sovereign state, gave it a name, all the attribute it deserves? How could you deny, ladies and gentlemen, the government, the crown jewel, I mean a government? But come to think of it, how were we going to proceed making our case an international one had we not named a government that demonstrated to the world that our case was no longer a civil or internal issue, but an international issue with French Cameroon? How are we going to do that? How was internationalizing the struggle going to be possible without calling it a government? The moment of the declaration demanded that a government be formed, and it made all the sense then, and it still does today. Fellow Amazonians, I would like to remind you that this interim government isn't the first government that this struggle for our independence has known. If my memory serves me right, there have been at least 2 to 3 governments, interim governments, formed at different stages in our struggle. The one preceding the current interim government was in fact headed by Professor Carson Anyangwe with a cabinet like this one. It just happened that these governments never picked up the kind of steam that this one has. Perhaps because social media was not there to prepare things the way it does today. But the point is, I have never for once heard any whisper of condemnation or regret about the idea of those other governments. I am yet to hear anyone say that those governments were a bad idea. If they were not a bad idea then, why is it that only this one must have been a bad idea? Why? It is just so unthinkable that our intellectuals are this dishonest. The people from whom this generation ought to be inspired are failing us. I mean people like Professor Carson Anyangwe, the one who headed the last government that was revamped. He is also on record as saying this interim government, the current government, was a bad idea. Yet, he was one of the chief architects of this very government in Zaria. When he contested for the post of acting president at the abduction of Sisiko, he was never heard suggesting that it was a bad idea to keep the government. But today, because leadership has eluded his camp, he is among those who want Ambazonians to believe the interim government was a wrong idea. This is the height of manipulation and intellectual dishonesty at its best. Ladies and gentlemen, the argument that they want you to buy that suggests that because we form a government, the international community cannot deal with us is half-baked deceit and pure intellectual dishonesty or pure ignorance. Ours isn't the first government in exile. Again, this interim government isn't the first interim government in the world to be in exile. Let me explain to you what a government in exile is actually about. And you tell me from the explanation if we are doing anything wrong running a government from exile. According to Wikipedia, a government in exile is a political group. A political group. Doesn't this describe us? Absolutely yes, it does. It says it is a political group which claims to be a country. Claims to be a country. Again, do we claim to be a country? Absolutely. But it adds also that it could be a country or semi-sovereign state legitimate government. A semi-sovereign state legitimate government. Can Ambazonia be said to be a semi-sovereign state? Absolutely. Absolutely. We are a semi-sovereign state because we are still waiting to be seated at the United Nations. Wikipedia adds that a semi-sovereign state is unable to exercise legal power and instead reside in another state or foreign country. That is exactly what we are. Governments in exile usually plan to one day return to their native country and regain former power. A government in exile may also form from widespread belief, listen to me, belief in the illegitimacy of the ruling government, La République du Cameroon. Ladies and gentlemen, ours isn't the first interim government to have been formed. So, you should have no iota of regret for forming one. The idea that the international community isn't going to talk to us because we form a government is a farce meant to manipulate you. That message is being advanced only for two reasons. For two reasons, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, for power grab. And number two, to persuade you to give up on the idea of independence for our country, our territory. The day we cease from having a government in exile, you will no longer hear of dialogue or negotiation that discuss the root causes of the problem, the conflict. You will no longer hear the mention of an international mediator and the word negotiated settlement. You will only hear of internal crisis. And since it would have turned into an internal crisis, it means La République du Cameroun would have retained the sole prerogative to decide how the conflict ends and what becomes of Amazonia. Let me read one more cut from Wikipedia. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what it says about a government in exile. And I quote, "These governments in exile are governments of non-self-governing or occupied territories. They claim legitimate authority over a territory they once controlled or claim legitimacy of a post-decentralization authority. Doesn't this sound like ours? The United Nations recognizes the right of self-determination for the population of these territories, including the possibility of establishing independent sovereign states. From the Palestinian Declaration of Independence in 1988, in exile in Algiers, that is in Algeria, by the Palestinian Liberation Organization, it effectively functioned as a government in exile for the Palestinian state. In 1994, however, the PLO established the Palestinian National Authority Interim Territorial Administration as a result of the Oslo Accord signed by the PLO, Israel, the United States, and Russia. Between 1994 and 2013, the Palestinian National Authority functioned as an autonomy. Thus, while the government was seated in the West Bank, it was not sovereign, and is still not sovereign. In 2013, Palestine was upgraded to a non-member state status in the United Nations. But when did the government start? When was it? In exile in 1988 in Algiers. If this isn't convincing to you enough, ladies and gentlemen, I have some other cases nearer home to bring to you. The revolutionary government of Angola in exile was led by the National Liberation Front of Angola, based in Congo, Kinshasa. It was founded in April 1962 and had its armed forces stationed in Congo, Kinshasa. And from there, they fought for their independence for their territory. Namibia was another case. It formed a government in exile in opposition to the apartheid South African administration over former Southwest Africa, which had been ruled as illegal by the United Nations. In 1990, Namibia, through the exile government, achieved independence after the South African border war. And let's also not forget that a large number of European governments in exile were set up in London. At least more than 10 of them were set up in London. You can think of the Poles, the Dutch, the Czechs, and so on. They were set up, even the French. How they set up the government after the invasion in London. It was about, the idea of the interim government was about an institution such that no one strong man could lay claims over it. Contrast that from other groups that we see, and you will agree that the idea of the government stood above personal interest, like what we see in different groups that we have been led for years by one man. Groups led for years by one man. Unlike these groups, the government was meant to be for the people and by the people. It was meant to be accountable to the people. It is an institution with structures that other groups do not have. It was meant to be a check against the kind of one-man ruler phenomenon that we see in other groups in the struggle. It gave the people the power to hire and to fire their leaders. As we saw in the recent impeachment, it gave the people the power to demand for accountability where need arise, as we saw in my trip to Boya auditing. Which groups does the kind of accounting that the interim government does to the people of Ambazonia? Which groups does that? No one person, unlike in other groups, can decide for the government what the government does. This is the beauty of the government. I have no doubt in my mind that some people and groups are fighting night and day to see it crumble only because they happen not to be on the driver's seat. No doubt, the people who plotted to overthrow it through APNC, the people who created SCOOP, the people who formed an alternative government, they are the ones who hope that this government dies so they can maybe manage themselves through other routes to the top again. If they were commanding the overwhelming support that this interim government commands, the real question should be, will they be saying today that the government was a bad idea? Of course not. Not at all. Before I end this presentation, I would like to remind all fervent struggle supporting Ambazonians, as I have done in the past, we are at a very, very critical moment in the struggle. Just as the Bible says, it isn't everyone who says, Lord, Lord, or shouts, Lord, Lord, who loves God. It is becoming very, very apparent that not everyone in this struggle who invokes Ambazonia is truly for a free Ambazonia. I see in some of our comrades in the diaspora and in prison the urge for a certain quick fix, a quick fix that grants them anything but independence for Ambazonia. When people start arguing that government was a bad idea and they will scrap it if they find their way, what are we going to be left with? We are left as Anglo-fools that French Cameroon believe we are. We go back to the status of slaves and second-class citizens of French Cameroon, who must prostrate to take anything they offer us. What a pity would it be? Is this what our people are dying for? Is this what our people have gone to prisons for? the Kintasan Wilfred denied 300 million francs from La République du Cameroon. He chose exile for a slave in French Cameroon, then went to jail. He should come back and prostrate before French Cameroon after such a price? Pa Ngalamfo has spent almost all of his life sacrificing his family and suffering incarceration again and again for nothing? This is the message. If we lost the interim government, we give up on the idea of the struggle of Ambazonia. Then we capitulate. We have given up on the struggle for our independence. Simple. Let no one, not even an angel, fool you that the government was a bad idea, or that the government has failed, or still that some other structure is worth trying. Any other structure that isn't a government takes us off the equation with French Cameroon. The interim government is a big tent. It can hold anybody and any idea, from the local governments to counties, from the country and regional coordinators to the Restoration Council, and of course to the cabinet. Everyone can find a place to belong. Everyone is welcome to belong. Those who feel like not necessarily belonging can still yet collaborate from their groups. This is the way forward. It is the way to go. Beware of those who, instead of belonging, are only desperately inventing new groups, just so they can lead. Beware of those calling for town hall meetings. Beware of those desperately trying to duplicate LGA by LGA and county by county when what we have is hardly stable yet. Beware of those who want to raise factional armies on the ground just so they can say they too are leaders and find the leverage to negotiate with French Cameroon. The state of the interim government is stronger than ever before. It continues to make new strides and still waiting patiently to lead the Ambazonia coalition into the Swiss mediation. We also are looking forward to standing side by side as a nation, as a country, and as a government with French Cameroon in the near future in the halls of justice at The Hague to hold them to account for the genocidal crimes against our people. We are also at the moment constituting an Ambazonian national army that will be well trained and equipped to respond to any internal and external challenges, most especially from French Cameroon. When you support your local government and your county, you are supporting the government. That's the way government runs. It was a good idea. God bless you all. Short live the revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the message I had for you today. Unfortunately, I will not be taking any questions today. I just want this message to resonate in your mind. And let us from today ignore the detractors and distractors and enablers and saboteurs who want us to be talking about a form of government instead of talking about fighting the enemy, prosecuting the war against the enemy, raising funds to support the war. I urge you, ladies and gentlemen, get back into your community. Get back into your community and support your county. Support your county, support your local government, and support and pay your CID dues. Pay your CID dues. That is what we have to do now. Let's focus. Let's focus. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. By God's grace, I will be back. God bless you all. See you again next time.
Carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I say, we want to know who owns the land. I want to know who owns the land. Hustler, hey, Papa Hustler, Papa Hustler, Papa Hustler. We must be free. Angola want to know who owns the land. Mozambique want to know who owns the land. Namibia want to know who owns the land. I say, Somalia want to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe want to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land. Purposely. Now listen to the history. With the years since creation. With the years since creation. What does the world know? Since the time of sun and sand. Since the time of moon and stars. Since the time of air and sea. Since the time of men and things. We must run from Cape to Cairo. I said, we must rule our purpose land. Purpose land. Oh! Okay now I want to talk to my people. never. Now we are the crossroads. On the femo, Lambela. Every fellow done it. On the femo, Lambela. Oh, Palimu Megagera Baba. Yeah, oh, Palimu just Yalaka. Oh, Palimu Zizanya Vetonge.
Almighty Father, Papa, now you love me so, and you know my name. I give you glory, Abba Father. You know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. Abba Father, you know me, you know my name. You know my name, oh Daddy, yeah. You know me, you know my name. I can see your hand in my life, Lord. I see your love upon me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. I dey hear your voice in my heart, Lord. I feel your love over me. Every time I look around, now you are the see. Every time I turn around, now you are the pillow. Abba Father, you know my name. Papa, you know me. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yelele, 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 yelele. Yeah, yeah. Jesus, your love, now oh. My master, your kindness, now wonder oh. Every time I look around, now you are the sea. Every time I turn around, now you are the view. Jesus, you